probably chatting on Teams also.
Oh, yeah, I'll have that open. Okay, Madam Chair, it is 10:01 and we have more than enough for a quorum. There's a couple
Good
people.
morning, Scott. I'm just working out some technical information.
Okay.
A few difficulties. I can't hear you.
At all? Mary, can you talk?
Yeah, let's see. So I can hear her, but I can't see her, but she's
Jeremy, do you have any?
Good morning, Scott. I'm
Maybe having some technical times.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is maybe they selected the wrong output device when connected to Zoom. So maybe it's going to some internal speakers instead of their headset or other speakers they have connected.
Okay.
That'd be a good thing to check out. I've done that before too.
A workaround for that would be having the user call in though.
Yeah, I'll tell her. Is the number in the invite?
Yeah,
Oh,
it should be.
Now, Crystal.
Yeah, I'm emailing her right now.
And Mary, that was Crystal that was speaking earlier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you like me to request her to unmute so they can test the microphone?
Yeah, sure. You might not be able to hear us. Does it matter which of these phone numbers I pick?
No, not really, no.
Okay.
okay. Abel, what should I do? I'm supposed to be chairing this meeting.
Looks like we can hear her now.
Is there any way we can close out the app, the Zoom, and then restart it?
You could try.
All your settings are definitely correct. Speaker soundbar. Down here on your speakers and you hear audio. Definitely Zoom. Go ahead and close it.
Recording in progress.
Oh, can you hear us now?
A lot of feedback. Oh,
Well, there's another Crystal.
Twice.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Sorry about that. I was having some technical issues that we were unable to resolve. So I will be going it from my phone this morning. So please bear with me, and I'm very sorry about that. Apparently there's some problems with Zoom and I couldn't hear any audio.
We were trying to tell you what to do, and obviously that didn't work.
And now I couldn't hear anything. So I will call this meeting to order. It is 10:05. And Mr. Wilkins has some information for the committee before we move to call the audience. So Mr. Wilkins, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We operate our committee meetings in full transparency, giving the public access to committee meetings, materials, and discussion. The public cannot view chat comments. As a result, we are disabling the chat feature in all committee meetings moving forward. If you need technical assistance during the meeting, please contact the helpline at 602-452-5090. 995, or contact the MAG staff assigned to the meeting. That'd be Mary or me. We appreciate your understanding in helping maintain transparent discussions for the benefit of the public.
Thank you, Scott. Next, we have call to the audience. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the MAG Population Technology Advisory Committee on items not scheduled on the agenda, but fall under the jurisdiction of MAG, or on items on the agenda for discussion, but not for action. Members of the public will be requested to limit their comments to 3 minutes. A total of 15 minutes will be provided for this agenda item. Those wishing to comment on action agenda items will be given the opportunity at the time the item is heard. Do we have any members of the public that would like to address the committee?
We have not received any requests to comment.
Thank you, Scott. Hearing none, we'll move to approval of the meeting minutes from the August 24th meeting.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I think we need to do a roll call before we do that. Or, well,
My apologies.
I don't think I had it on the agenda. We can just do that through as, sorry, move on. We'll do that as I'm doing the roll call vote for the
Okay.
minutes. That'll work.
Okay, is there any discussion of the item? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion?
This is Ben Davidson from Valley Metro. I would like the motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Ben. Is there a second?
This is Dave Miller, City of Phoenix. I second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to recommend approval of the August 24th meeting minutes. Mr. Wilkins, will you please take a roll call vote?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go down the list, and if I know that you're here, I'll say your name. If I don't know who's representing the jurisdiction, I'll say the jurisdiction. So please respond yay or nay. Tracy Clark or anyone from ADOT? Nick Leftwich, Apache Junction.
Yay.
Michelle Smerdla, Avondale.
Yay.
Andrea Marquez, Buckeye.
Yay.
Stacy Bridge Denzak, Carefree.
Aye.
Luke Kautzman or anyone from Cave Creek. Sam Andrea, Chandler.
Yay.
Victor Cantu, Florence.
Yay.
Farhad Tavasoli, Fountain Hills. Thumbs up from Farhad. See that on the video. Anybody from Gila Bend? Eva Kutro, Gilbert.
Yay.
Alex Lerma or anyone from Glendale. Christian Williams, Goodyear.
Yay.
Anyone from Guadalupe? Sonny Colbreth or anyone from Litchfield Park? Rudy Lopez or anyone from Maricopa City? I've got Ray Banker from Maricopa County.
That's yay from me. Thank you.
Kelly Rorex, Mesa.
Yay.
Paul Michaud, Paradise Valley.
Yay.
Chris Jasper or anyone from Peoria. Dave Miller, Phoenix.
Yay.
Tara Harmon, Pinal County.
Yay.
Anyone from Queen Creek? Anyone from Salt River, Pima, Maricopa? Oh, is that a yes?
This is Eric Swanson from Queen Creek. So I'm voting yay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone from Salt River, Pima, Maricopa Indian Community? Taylor Reynolds, Scottsdale?
Yes, and here.
Lloyd Abrams, Surprise?
Yay.
Anyone from City of Tempe? Ben Davidson, Valley Metro?
Yay.
Davis Cohour, Wickenburg? On earlier, one of the first ones.
He is here.
Can you hear me now? Yay.
Yes.
There we go.
The yay? Okay.
Yes, that's a yay.
Thank you. Gregory Arrington or anyone from Youngtown? And Vice Chair Dykes, El Mirage.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes have passed.
Thank you, Scott. Next, we have a July 1st, 2021 municipality resident population update and methodology. MAG staff has prepared this report, and I will turn it over to Mr. Scott Bridwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Let me share my screen here real quick. Everybody see my screen? Great.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time. It's the month of October, so it's the month of pumpkin spice and population updates. We do these every year. I'll direct your attention towards attachment 1, which is in your packet. And within attachment 1, there's, I believe, 4 pages. On the first page, there's an overview of the updated county level population estimates for this draft. On page 2, there's a sort of a generalized place level view for the places within the MAG MPO. Page 3 has a more detailed accounting, detailing the actual specific components of the method. And then page 4 has a textual description of the methodology. All right, and so with that, this is something we do every year. This is looking at fiscal year 2021, and we develop these in coordination with the State Demographer's Office, who tends to be involved with the county level and the state level estimates, and also with the Central Arizona Association of Governments, or CAG, because we have members within Pinal County, and then also we need to actually do all of Pinal County as well. So in terms of the applications of what these estimates are typically used for, one of the big ones is for using expenditure limits, or typically known as home rule. We use this for a lot of internal MAG efforts. So for instance, as we start to do the next round of projections, we'll be using these and they'll help serve as our base going forward. And then these also get used to support member agency requests, research, historical analysis, that kind of thing. So in terms of the areas of interest that we're looking at here, what we're presenting today and the action item that we're asking of you is represented largely in the red dashed lines that represents the MAG planning area. However, when we do this, we do develop estimates for the entire Phoenix MSA, so Maricopa and Pinal counties. In terms of the methodology for the data sources here, the primary input that we're getting is the recently released Census 2020 redistricting file. From that, we get population and households, group quarters, residential unit stock, and also occupancy and vacancy characteristics. So in terms of that, we build on that 20 file using a couple of updated sources. So residential completions, this is the net change, so completions minus demolitions. We also are tracking changes in major group quarter facilities, so things like dorms and prisons, some nursing care facilities. And then we're also then tracking annexations of housing units going from unincorporated into a jurisdiction. And the method that we apply is known as the housing unit method, or HUM. And it's a fairly simple method. What we're going to do is we're going to take the Census 20 base, and from that we can calculate a persons per household factor and also an occupancy rate factor. We then take the residential completions that you provide us, and we get an updated census, or we get an updated current housing stock by adding the completions and also the annexed housing units. From that, we estimate the group quarters population by taking the change in those major facilities that we track and adding those to the counts that we had in 2020. One thing I think that's notable that you will see in page 3 of your attachment is that there tends to be, I think given the current conditions, a decline in group quarters overall. And this is something that happened across pretty much every dorm and pretty much every correctional facility that was within our data set. So that's largely what's attributing that. So after we estimate group quarters population, we then estimate the population in households by multiplying our residential stock of housing units by the computed factors for persons per household and also the occupancy rate. And then so then the estimated total population is simply the addition of the group quarters and the household population. So this year is a little bit different for a couple of reasons. So at the county level, what typically happens is the state demographer's office applies what they call the composite method to derive county level and state level estimates. And then we take the HUM and we basically distribute those county level results down to individual places. Now, this year, at the time of this draft, there is no county level total to work from, largely because the state demographer's office doesn't have the data that they need to actually compute that. So for instance, the census hasn't released age-specific data, so they can't apply it. There's also been some issues with school enrollment data because of COVID, really kind of skewing how those are being distributed. And there's also issues right now with the MVD driver's license database because they switched the database, I guess, around April of 2020. And so they're not getting consistent results like they would have in the past. So what we're presenting to you today may change slightly in the future if the state demographer's office comes up with a county level total. Their options right now are really to continue to use the HUM sums, which is what we're doing right now. That's one option. The other option that they're looking at doing is to apply like a forecast, sort of a time series trend, looking at the observed rates of change over the last decade. And I've seen some preliminary results like from that, and those are actually pretty close to what the HUM sum is. So they're pretty close to each other. And so we don't expect there to be a dramatic difference in the final result. It's just something that we wanted to report to you here.
Thank you, Scott. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bridwell, or is there any discussion of the items?
I think we may have a couple more slides, Madam Chair.
Oh.
Right. So this slide is just showing, this is similar to what you have on page 1. This is showing the county level totals. And so what you can see here is that essentially in the last year or so, we're showing a 70,000 increase in Maricopa County, around a 9,500 increase within Pinal County. And again, a lot of that, if you look at the change in household population is actually larger than this, but in a way that the decline in group quarters population is kind of dragging this down a little bit. So this is my final slide. This is the recommended action that MAG staff is proposing. And then on the right, those are the jurisdictional updates. I'll be happy to take any questions or if anybody would like to propose the item.
Are there any questions for Scott, or do we have a motion?
We do have someone who hopefully will make a motion, then we put it right on the screen for you. So please just read that for us.
Okay, I will. Okay.
From Goodyear, I'll recommend approval of the draft July 1st, 2021 municipal residential population updates for MAG member agencies.
Provided
that the metropolitan statistical area control total is within the 2% of the final control total.
Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second. City of Surprise, Lloyd.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to recommend approval of the draft July 1st, 2021 municipality resident population updates for MAG member agencies, provided that the metropolitan statistical area control total is within 2% of the final control total. Mr. Wilkins, can you Wilkin, can you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Anybody from ADOT? Nick Leftwich,
Yay.
Michelle Smerdla,
Yay.
Andrea Marquez,
Yay.
Stacy Bridge Denzak,
Aye.
anyone from Cave Creek? Sam Andrea,
Yay.
Victor Cantu,
Aye.
Farhad Tavasoli,
Yay.
anyone from Gila Bend? Ava Kutro,
Yay.
anyone from Glendale? Christian Williams,
Yay.
anyone from Guadalupe? Anyone from Litchfield Park? Anyone from City of Maricopa? Ray Banker?
Yay.
Who would be Kelly Rorex?
Yay.
Paul Michaud?
Yay.
Anyone from Peoria? Dave Miller?
Yay.
Tara Harmon?
Yay.
Eric Swanson?
Yay.
Anyone from SRP MIC? Taylor Reynolds?
Yes.
Lloyd Abrams?
Yay.
Anyone from Tempe? Ben Davidson?
Yay.
Davis Konauer?
Yay.
Anyone from Youngtown? And Madam Chair,
Aye.
the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Scott. Next, we have the Census 2020 update. Mr. Wilkin, will you provide an update on the Census 2020 data releases?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is going to be pretty quick. I wanted to talk about, for those of you who missed the State Demographer's annual meeting a couple weeks ago, they had a number of folks from the Census Bureau present a number of things. One of the things they talked about was the Count Question Resolution Program, or CQR. And we talked about that at our last meeting in August. We had Sam Andrea talk about his efforts 10 years ago at Chandler. And at that time, there were no details about the 2020 program. They gave us some details this time. Probably one of the biggest ones is that the highest elected official in every jurisdiction across the country should get a notice of the program sometime in December, and then in January the program will actually start. You'll have an 18-month window to submit cases, and so they'll take cases through the end of June 2023, and all the results will be sent back to anybody who submitted cases 3 months later through the end of September 2023. One thing that I realized while they were presenting this is that the Count Question Resolution Program is really poorly named. I might have talked about this in August, but when people think of the decennial census, the biggest count that they think about is population. And this doesn't really do anything to the Census 2020 population. The CQR is for technical mistakes on locations of housing units. And basically, if you are able to show that they've misplaced housing units, they put them in the wrong block, or if the boundary of your incorporated area is wrong, if it was whatever it should have been as of January 1st, 2020, if they weren't reflecting that, which is pretty rare, then they will make those changes. The most common one is that they misplaced dwelling units. And if you can prove that they put dwelling units in the wrong block or the wrong jurisdiction, then they will change that. And that won't affect the decennial population. that will affect the annual estimates, annual population estimates moving forward. And that's key here in Arizona because we use those annual population estimates for state shared revenue distribution. And so it is helpful, but as Sam mentioned at our last meeting, it's pretty hard to get them to make these changes. I think he said he submitted something like 9,000 and they accepted like 60 or maybe even less than that. So it's a lot of work. It can provide a little bit of change moving forward throughout the decade. That's what's available. MAG is planning to take a look and see if we can give you any initial information that might help you if you are going to submit a CQR case, but the case has to come from you or your jurisdiction. We can help you out with some initial analysis, but that's about all we can do. Are there any questions on CQR at this time? The only other thing of note that came out of those presentations was, as you know, they released the redistricting data for Census 2020, which is somewhat limited. It has total population, total housing units. The age groups are broken into two. It's under 18 and then 18 plus. So it's voting age population and under voting age population. And then the basic race and ethnicity data and occupancy status of the dwelling units. There will be more. There'll be a lot more. They used to call it summary file 1, summary file 2. Now they're calling it the housing and population, or was it housing characteristics file and detailed housing characteristics file. They said one of the presenters said that they are estimating that those will be released in 2022. So that's news, I guess. That's as specific as they got, and we'll get it as soon as it's available, and we'll let you know when we have it and when it's available on our website. But at this time, that's all we know. It's coming next year, probably. Are there any questions on any of the census stuff, this or anything else?
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Doesn't look like there's any questions. So, and that was for information. Provide the information on the intercensal estimates.
Okay, thanks again. Let me share my screen. Okay, can everybody see my screen again? Nope, not yet. Okay,
Not yet.
Let me make sure. How about now?
There you go. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, so this is an item that's not for action. This is really more just for information discussion and also maybe to try and solicit some feedback going forward. So there's really kind of two types of population estimates. The first set is what we just approved, and those are what's kind of typically called post-censal. Post-censal because they're taking place after the last census that occurred. And so we're all well aware of those because we just talked about those. So what this is talking about are what called intercensal estimates, and you can think of those as sort of like revised estimates. So the whole idea here is that you've had this whole decade of estimates that you've collected. You then have a census 20 count. You can look at that census 20 count against what your most recent estimate was, and then basically distribute that error across the estimates that you made previously within the decade. So this is largely really kind of an academic exercise. More than anything else, this isn't something that's officially being used for anything, but nonetheless, it's something that gets done by the state demographer's office, and it's used for basically to support historical analysis, to support research projects. It can be useful looking at trends, within the decade. And so what we're presenting today are really kind of two options for how we might go about trying to develop these for the 2010 to 2020 decade. And at its basic core, what you see here, this is actually an example for Pinal County. And so what you have here in the purple line These are the originally adopted estimates that basically got adopted every annual year throughout the decade. And what you can see then is we have, at census 20, we have basically an error between what was estimated and what was actually observed. And so the idea with the method is really to take and distribute that error throughout the rest of the series. And so what you're trying to do is really kind of reflect the sort of the temporal distribution within the decade, but at the same time also then hit those two endpoints, the endpoint being the start of the decade and the end of the decade. And this is typically done using what's called the Das-Gupta method, which is named after, I believe, a census worker that wrote a memo in the 80s. And typically it's the Das-Gupta 6 method. We can provide the memo if anybody's interested at looking at all the detailed methods that are available. So the one hiccup for our region, and it's kind of been a hiccup really since 2015, is the 2015 special census. And so with the 2015 special census, we had 6 cities that participated. And what makes this a little bit difficult is that 4 of those cities actually had lower counts than what were estimated for 2015. And so if you were to respect that sort of that temporal distribution, then you would actually be showing declines from 15 to 16 when we're pretty confident that those declines did not actually occur. They're really just methodological artifacts. So we can't apply a typical sort of Das-Gupta intercensal method like you would in most decades. And so what we've looked at are really kind of 2 potential ways that we can get around this. And that's what we're looking for feedback on. So option 1 is what we're calling a 2-stage intercensal. And this is essentially taking the decade and pretending like we have 2 mini decades within it. And so this is going to explicitly incorporate the 2015 special census results. And so what we basically do is we develop one set of intercensal estimates that go from 2010 to 2015. And those 2015 are basically for the special census cities, that's their special census count. And for the non-special census cities, it's redistributing the original 2015 estimates so that you're matching the county level control totals. That's kind of, I know it's kind of confusing, but that's because we have to respect the overall county control, but we're trying to also reflect those actual counts. And this is actually the same method that was used to develop the estimates base for 16 to 20 in the last series. So again, we go one method from 10 to 15, we do another from 15 to 20. And so again, you kind of have two series at that point that we then join together. So the benefit of this approach is that if it's important to reflect the special census, if people have confidence in the special census, then it will reflect those counts. But the disadvantages of the method is that it has a lot of methodological artifacts. It's not really continuous throughout the decade, because essentially what you have is you have 2 slopes, one going from 10 to 15 and a different slope from 15 to 20. And so that's one potential option. The other potential option that we've looked at is to basically pretend the special census never happened. So what we're going and doing through here is basically redeveloping estimates for 10 to 20. And so those 15 to 20 are going to be different than the originally adopted estimates, because we're just looking at the raw inputs. We're not actually looking at how the 2015 special census would impact it. So the benefits of this are that we then have something which I guess you could say is more pure, in a sense, that it's reflecting more of the actual like individual data inputs. Those data inputs would be the residential completions, quarters. So we tend to feel that it probably has a better representation of what actually happened within the decade. But then the obvious con is that this is no longer going to actually match the special census results. And I would say that this option number 2 is probably the MAG preferred option. It's also, I think, the preferred option of the state demographer's office as well. And I should say that in either one of these methods, the intercensal methods are basically applied in a top-down manner. So they develop the state level estimates first, then they develop the county level estimates, and those are basically benched up to the state, and then the place level results get benched to the county. So both of these methods will basically have the same county level result, just the place level distribution within the county will be different. And so I have some sample results here. If anybody's interested in their particular jurisdiction, or if they want to see the entire data series, I can provide that as a table. Just reach out to me. I'll provide my contact information at the end of the presentation. So I have 2 slides here of sample results. This first slide has 6 of the 7 special census cities. And what you're seeing here in the chart, they're basically, each of these has 3 lines in it. The blue line are those original estimates, what we call the post-census estimates. So the original estimates that got adopted through the decade of 10 to 20. The orange here is representing that stage, the 2-stage approach. That's the approach that incorporates the special census explicitly. And then the gray line here is doing the revised estimates. So this is where we're basically ignoring and pretending like the special census didn't happen. And so you can see for a lot of these cities is that there's an obvious problem here with the blue line where you see the 2015 is dropping down to 16 and then shooting back up from 16 to 20. And this is happening across a couple of these cities. And you can also then see that with this 2-stage, you in a sense have sort of one kind of, depending on the city, you kind of have one slope that's going from 10 to 15, and then there's something different which is going from 15 to 20. Whereas the gray slope tends to be a little bit smoother throughout the decade. Excuse me. And this is the same, one second. And these are sample results for non-special census cities. And so some of these are less dramatic. And again, it kind of depends on the specific city and how close that estimate was to the final census count. That's all the information I have to present. I'd be willing to take any questions or take any feedback for what type of preferences you might have of which approach we should use. Thank you.
Scott, this says that it's primarily used for research purposes. Is there anything else that we should be aware of that it would impact?
It's not going to be used for any type of funding that I can think of, right?
Yeah, this is a purely MAG and state demographer exercise. All of the state shared revenue distribution comes from the Census Bureau. And so this does not go to the Census Bureau at all. It doesn't impact the estimates moving forward. They're not going to ask for your money back if your intercept is lower.
I mean, if you were to look within the decade and try to identify, changes within your city, then something like this could be important for that type of analysis. But yeah, it's really more of an analysis research type of purpose.
Does anyone have any thoughts on option A or B?
Yeah, this is.
Could you go back to that slide, Scott?
Sure.
Or 1 or 2, option 1 or 2, I should say.
Taylor,
go ahead. Yeah.
I think I'd prefer the MAG's preferred option with the revised post-census. So option 2. I mean, even in looking in some of the charts that were there, this 2015 special census was only conducted for certain cities, and it appears to, if you were to put it within this 2-stage intercensal, it affects all cities, like you stated it at the county level. And I'd hate for it to skew historically, looking back at these numbers, all cities when only a handful participated. So I'd prefer option 2.
Okay, thanks.
This is Christian from Goodyear. We were a special census city, and just looking at the chart for those cities, it seems like it makes a lot of sense to do option 1. I would say from our standpoint, I know we distribute that data throughout our organization and with the public a lot. So I think from our sense, looking at the option 1 line, it does not seem too skewed, especially looking at how we did kind of pick up a lot in permit activity after 2015.
Okay, thanks.
Others? So where will this, today this was just for information and discussion. Where is this going to go next?
So next we would be following up with the state demographer's office and trying to finalize these. If anybody, what I can do is I can send out to the members the full table, if that would be helpful for both options. And then if anybody wants to get back with me, we can kind of go from there.
At this point, would you like to know from each city our preferred option?
I don't know that
Scott.
we need to take like a roll call of
Okay.
everybody. It's as Scott said, it's an academic exercise mostly, and it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of people don't have a preference. So I don't want to make people come up with a preference just because we ask.
Okay.
But if you do have a clear preference and you think it makes more sense either way, we would love to hear that, and that can help us make the decision.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Next, we are moving on to Pop Tech Vice Chair recruitment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is good practice because you are going to be the chair starting January 1st, which means we need a new vice chair, and we were hoping to get people nominated by November 1st so that it can be on the Regional Council Executive Committee agenda in November to get a new vice chair appointed. To date, I don't think we've had anybody put in their name. So just put this on the agenda again to remind you that that's open. Traditionally, the vice chair and chair of this committee have been city and town managers, although it doesn't have to be. That is the preference. It's been helpful to have that connection with management committee when we move our estimates and long range projections forward. I'll be sending out another reminder, kind of a last minute reminder to this committee, and I will most likely be copying your intergovs and managers. I'll do that today, just saying, hey, if you have any interest, we need to know that soon. If we don't have a vice chair by January 1st, then we'll move on, and hopefully we'll get somebody eventually, but it would not be the first time this committee was missing a vice chair for a short amount of time. So if you're interested, or if you'd like to talk to your management team, your intergov, and see if there's any interest there, please contact me, and I can tell you what we need from you, but we would prefer to get that this week. And if not this week, we prefer to get it as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. It doesn't hurt to ask everyone to twist a few arms, does it? Finally, I think Peter Burnett has some information he'd like to share. Mr. Burnett, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we just have a couple staff changes I'd like to talk about and introduce to this committee. First of all, I'd like to introduce Joe Morella, who we've recently hired as a GIS analyst. Joe comes to us from Arizona State University. She has a bachelor's degree in anthropology and a master's degree in GIS, which she recently graduated from. She actually started out as an intern for us and in February, and was just last month recently hired full-time as a GIS analyst, and we're just thrilled to have her. She's going to be working a lot on some schools and education data for us with some read-on responsibilities there. So we're excited to have her and welcome her, and she's in this meeting with us today too, but just welcome to Joe. Thank you. In addition to that, we had a staff member, a team member that we've really enjoyed having, actually moved on to different employment, and that is Christian Gort. And a lot of you are familiar with Christian. He managed and took care of our employer database. So that's a big loss for us. Some implications of that: right now, we need to hire a new person to take on the employer database. And if anybody knows of anybody with some database management skills and so forth that's looking for work, please send them our way. We'd like to get that going as soon as possible. We should be listing that position soon. We're excited to fill that and work on that, but hopefully it won't cause too many delays with the employer database. But with that said, also the 2020 employer database was recently released. You all should have been notified about that. If anybody needs that data or any other requests about employer data, please feel free to contact me going forward instead of Christian, as he's moved on. So thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, November 16th at 10 a.m. With no other business to discuss, we are adjourned. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Crystal.